Today, X is malaria, thankfully. That is Sebastian Rombi, of course, and I do excuse the shadows on my face, but you will notice that when I turn my face to the sun, I'm unable to open my eyes. That is because it is so very bright. So let's not look at me, let's look at the dogs. While I tell you that, of course, we would love to hear from you throughout the course of the show, as I'm sure Ralph and Brent have told you already. And you can talk to us using the hashtag SafariLive. Now, for those of you who have not been with us over the last few days, we've been doing a few experiments with Ronald the Rover to see how animals respond to him. Now, we've done it with Hosanna the male leopard, we've done it with the Styx Pride. Both of those cats reacted in very similar ways. Well, the adult lions couldn't have been less interested. The cubs and the young Hosanna walked up to him. I'm not sure why they stood up there. It's not because I moved Ronald. And they kind of came and looked at him, smelt him, and then they disappeared. Then they lay down and relaxed again. Now, the dogs, when we put him down here, they did get up straight away as soon as he moved towards them. And now they've settled again in the shade. So we'll see what happens. I was a little bit surprised by their slightly startled reaction, so I'm not sure that we're going to get the same result that we have with the cats. Alrighty, let's head down to the other end of the Djuma end of this drive. Let's go down to Tristan Dix, who is sitting with some elephants.
I am, James. I'm sitting with elephants, but I'm not on the other end of Djuma. I'm very, very close to where you are sitting, Mr. Henry. And so these elephants are all around Chelapan, which is just a little bit south of where James is. As James mentioned, my name is Tristan, and on camera today I do have Wiem the Wildebeest. There we go. There's a little thumb from Wiem. This is live. It is interactive, which of course means that you can actually ask questions and get hold of us. So hashtag SafariLive or YouTube chat if you would like to get hold of us. Now, we have a beautiful herd of elephants that have come down towards Chelapan, which is in a way really cool and in another way not so cool, because we were hoping that we would find young Hosanna just sleeping and resting in this area, but he seems to have moved on. Although the way these elephants are all kind of fronting up, I think Hosanna might be lying somewhere close by. Let's just try and check here in front, because the Ellies are kind of looking towards this direction and they're kind of taking a few steps. There's a little baby there. Let's see, maybe if we go forward, Hosanna might be lying somewhere in the shade here. I don't quite know where Steve left him this morning, so I just want to check in all the shady spots. I don't think he would have gone far with a full belly, although you never know with Hosanna because he moves so much, and he does like to move a bit during the day as well. So maybe he's moved on, maybe the Ellies have chased him, but just the way that they're all kind of bunched up, you see how they're all tightly packed together. I thought maybe, just maybe, there was a little leopard in section, which could be very possible. We'll have to just look nicely. It also could be because there's a tiny baby in amongst there, so there's a very wobbly baby, maybe a baby that was born at some stage yesterday. It could be, or even last night, because it's really quite wobbly on its feet. The way that it's standing, you can see those little legs are buckling and moving quite a bit, and the fact that everybody's bunched around it could potentially mean that it's a fairly newborn. The other thing that we have here is some really big bull elephants. So there's a massive bull elephant in the background. He's also here, and so that's causing a bit of a ruckus in the herd. So Francis from Israel, you think that that's why they're a bit anxious, is that they're protecting the baby? Well, I think it's twofold. I think not only they're protecting the baby, maybe they smell a leopard here, and maybe they know that Hosanna was around in this section, but I think more than anything is that these big bulls are causing a bit of a ruckus. So there are a number of big boys around here, and they keep chasing some of the females, and you can see, look, as the male leaves, now look at how this herd has disbanded out, and so the little one is now a lot more exposed than what it was, but they're all sort of sniffing at it. It is very small, that little one, so that is a tiny new baby that is around, which is very cool. And so maybe there's another female that's in heat and the boys are causing a bit of panic, and that's why everybody's sort of trying to protect this little baby in case one of those big males comes close. Now you can see two of the males just squaring off there. Those are the two smaller ones. There's the third is a really large male, which I don't quite know there he is. He's just on the right there behind that bush, so maybe he'll come out just now as well. Insanity, you're wondering if the matriarch elephant is always the biggest? No, not necessarily. Sometimes you will find that there will be bigger females within the herd structure, but she might just be sort of from a different lineage, or she might have joined from a different reason, and so she's maybe not the matriarch of that particular herd. Or you'll have a situation where genetically there's a female that is the matriarch and another female that grows up underneath that female, gets slightly larger, but yet she's not as experienced and not as sort of in tune with what's going on, and so oh no, it fell down. Oh shame, little one, did you just fall? I think this little one must be newer than we think, maybe a matter of hours old, given that look how it's struggling to stand up. Oh no, come on, up onto your feet. There we go. See, Mom, look how Mom is picking it up. See, Mom is using its trunk to try and pick it up. Look at that. Isn't that incredible? See, all of them? So they wrap their trunk around its body like a little harness, and they lift it so that it can get to its feet to get the strength to be able to stand. I wonder if this baby is not even newer than we even think. Maybe during the day today, maybe in the last few hours, it's incredibly hot today, so it would dry very fast if it was born recently. I mean, the time for it to dry would be, like I say, very quick. So maybe it was born late, or this afternoon, or around lunchtime area. It's difficult to know, but it would explain why the herd is sticking around, because you would expect a herd like this to move and not to stand right in the sun like they are at the moment. But for some reason, they're sticking around, and the baby is very wobbly, so maybe that's the reason why. It's very, very cool to see. Either way, it is tiny, that little one, and definitely not very well balanced at all. So we'll hopefully see it trying to move away. I'm sure this herd is going to try and find some semblance of shade. It must be incredibly hot for not only them but the little baby as well. Now, the interesting thing about this whole process is that those females that are standing there are all fairly young females. None of those are particularly big. You can see here comes a much larger female who's actually got much bigger teeth or mammary glands, and so I wonder if she's not the one that is actually the mother, and she just went for a quick cooling down, and the siblings have just protected around her, because I don't see any other females there that are lactating at the moment, but I could be wrong. Now look, here comes the big male. You see how much bigger he is than the females. He's going to come towards them, and look at how the females are wrapping around that little calf. Isn't this just the most phenomenal behavior from these elephants? And look at the size difference. He towers way over those females. He is massive in comparison to them, and that little baby, is hard to think that it's going to go from that small, if it's a male, all the way to that massive individual like you see there. Now, we can definitely confirm that the female that is in front, that's closest to us, is the mom, so that little one is suckling from it. So amazing to see that the other members of the herd looked after it while the female went just to go cool down. She's probably been in the sun, she's probably exerted a lot of energy if she's given birth recently, and so while she went to go and cool down slightly, the others looked after her and just wrapped around her and made sure that they're looking after this little calf. But how cool is that? You've got from absolutely tiny, from new, all the way up to as big as males can be. I mean, you can see the height of his shoulders in comparison to those females. Gives you a really good idea. Is amazing. It just shows you that male elephants are really not small animals at all. You always see females and you think they're massive, and then you see these males in comparison and you can realize just how big they are at the shoulder in particular. And look at the size of his head in comparison to those females' heads. His head is almost double the size. You can imagine how much strength and power is inside there. Absolutely incredible. How cool is this? What a way to start our safari. It really is the best way to start, is a big herd of elephants, the prospect of a leopard sitting somewhere here watching all of this going on. It really is a good, like I say, a good omen for a successful afternoon that we should have. So I believe a lot of you are a bit concerned or worried that this bull will hurt the calf. Well, elephants are insanely intelligent animals, and while the bull might be, close to the calf and might represent some sort of danger in terms of he could knock that calf over, you can see what these others are doing. So the adults, females, and the siblings of that little calf have created a protective barrier. So even if that bull comes, they'll almost sacrifice themselves in a way, so they'll get hit by that bull long before that little calf will. And and so the bull's not going to be interested in hurting it in any way. They're not like lion and leopards where they'll come around and they'll try and kill the baby to bring their female into estrus. Male elephants are not like that at all. So he's just curious. He'll sniff that little elephant, and then now you see he's just walked off. He's no longer even interested in what's going on here. He knows that there's no female to mate with here, so he's now looking for the female that is in estrus. So he's sniffing the ground, sniffing all the dung, looking around, trying to see which is the female that they are picking up the scent for that is in estrus. So that little calf, perfectly safe at this stage. I don't think he needs to worry too much, and mom and siblings are most certainly detect it as much as possible, keep it as safe as they can over the next little bit. But this is so cool. We're watching an amazing sort of thing unfold, and elephants, they are such intelligent animals that to sit and spend time with them in a situation like this where you've got the females and the males and these little tiny calf and see the social interactions between them is just absolutely fascinating. Right, well, we're going to stay with our elephant herd because I don't really want to go anywhere. There's so much that potentially could happen here with big bulls and little babies, and like I say, a potential of a leopard making an appearance. So while we sit here, I believe James is out and about with his toys once again, and I think Ronald is now making another predator acquaintance for the week.
He certainly is. He's making friends, and he's making friends with that dog that's fast asleep there. Look how close he's got. The dogs are completely disinterested in his presence, and I don't know, can we go to his picture? Is that possible? Is it possible to go to his picture? Now we have got Ronald's picture. Now this is the reason for existence. The dogs are now going to business, ignoring him in tougher packs, just kind of water behind that they, some of them into and then flopping down into and getting out of.
Yes, everybody, I'm not sure what happened there, but, well, we're still sitting here with the ever-present hyena and the little cubs, and they've been getting more and more curious, smelling the air, smelling what we're all about, and it's lovely to watch their nature of wanting to explore the world around them, and as something new comes into their little world, they obviously really want to see what it's all about. But the youngsters, those ones are starting to get the little color of the adults on their faces, and look at that. A little bit of sibling love, maybe. Not often too much love shown between hyenas. Probably a little bit of dominance. And it's amazing to see that we've been watching these youngsters, and even at this young age, they're already marking and putting little anal pastings on the grass as they move around. So, and that's also for each other to sniff and smell. It's not really for other animals. They're already at such a young age establishing and maintaining their position in the hierarchy. And so it's fascinating. That one's still got his prize of the warthog tusk, and it looks like he's keeping it. And the others have been trying to get it away from him, but he's quite happy with it. Now, Aaron, you're wondering how you tell the sexes. Now, that is an extremely good question, because with hyenas, in times gone by, people really believed that they were hermaphrodites, meaning that they are both male and female. And now, I don't mean to make anybody uncomfortable, but if we want to talk about sexes of animals, we're talking male or female, and generally how we tell that is whether there is a penis or an vulva or a vagina. But with hyenas, there is no external vagina. So they, both male and female, have penises. With the female, it's obviously a pseudo-penis, which is an enlarged clitoris. So it's very difficult to tell between male and female. The only thing that you really need to look at is the size. And so the females are much bigger than the males, but it's rather difficult when they are little youngsters like this, because both male and female have penis, but it does seem, from my observations, that the females have a larger pseudo-penis than the male's actual penis. So that's how I have been on my deciding between how to decide if it's a male or female. So I know it's a difficult subject to deal with, and not everybody too comfortable with those kind of conversations, but well, it's a reality. So that's what makes and sets hyena apart. Right, folks, now from one group of small little babies, let's send you on over to Tristan, who's still with that lovely little elephant calf.
Well, indeed. It's always a toss-up which is cuter in terms of the baby animal world. They all, I suppose, are very cute. There's not very many ugly babies out there, that's for sure. But the little one, as you can see, is being very well sheltered, not only from the big rampaging males that are around here, but also from a perspective of this harsh sun that we've got this afternoon. It is incredibly warm, and so for a little baby like that, it's going to dehydrate, and its ears are very sensitive still to the sun, that they could get sunburnt, and so it's important that it stays in the shade of these siblings and adults and make sure that the sun doesn't get on it too much. And so you can see it's perfectly positioned, and there's a little sun hitting it every now and then, but for the most part it's nice and shady underneath all of those tummies, and it can fit in very well as mom has a little dust bath, and all of the others sit and allow it to regain its strength as it tries to work out how to use these legs. Now the male seems to be coming back again. This looks like the cheekier one of the three. He's not the biggest, but he's quite cheeky, this individual, and I think he might get a rough welcome if he comes too close. Look at how these guys will tighten their ranks, and they'll make sure that they keep that bull at bay. There'll also be a lot of communication taking place between them. A lot of it we won't be able to hear, or 9 of it we're not going to be able to hear it. Use that very low frequency sound that basically will tell that bull, don't come here, there's a little baby, you need to be careful, and keep him at bay as much as possible. You can see now he's stopped to feed and is not very perturbed at all. Now interestingly enough, now that I look at that big bull elephant, you might notice just above him is actually a bird that's sitting there, and I didn't notice it very well earlier, but it's sitting and it's just perched, and I'm surprised because this time of the day, in the heat that we've got, you would expect most of the birds of prey to be riding the thermals and to be out and about, but this yellow-billed kite is just sitting here, and I wonder if it maybe didn't see an opportunity to feed off some of the afterbirth of this elephant, because what they will do is, even though yellow-billed kites are able to catch their own food and they'll hunt termites and they'll hunt various other small insects and birds, what they are known for is also coming down onto roadkill and also any bits of carrion that's left behind. And so the afterbirth of a elephant might be the perfect snack for a yellow-billed kite, and that's why it could be sitting here, is because of that reason. The afterbirth might have been close by, and it's now just flown up into the tree waiting for the ellies to move off. It can then come down and feed off it, or it's going to feed off where the elephants have defecated, and there are a number of insects that might be around that as well. So interesting though that this bird is in sort of, even though it's not related to the elephants in any way, it's using the elephants for a food source by the looks of things. I might be wrong, and it might just be a coincidence, but I doubt that that bird would be sitting for that long in the bright, hot sun, exposed like that, if it wasn't for a reason that it was waiting for these elephants to move off, or trying to follow them along as they're defecating and using their dung, basically, as their attraction. But look at the power of these animals. It is absolutely amazing to watch when they move those trees. So Billy, who's 5 years old. Hello, Billy. I hope that you're having a wonderful weekend. You want to know, do elephants like to play? Elephants love to play, Billy. They are one of the most playful animals that we get out here. You'll find if it's a nice, cool morning and it's overcast and there's not too much wind, then the little baby elephants are a joy to watch. They'll go up and down and round, and they chase after birds and warthogs and koalas and all these other animals that out as they try and work out how to use their trunk and how to run nicely, and so they're very playful. The adults, not so much. You don't see big bull elephants playing too much. When they get really large, like the male that we have here, then you're going to see that they're going to be a little bit more serious. But when they're young bull elephants and young females, then they play a lot. They push each other as well, and they'll try and test each other's strength. So lots of playing that goes on when you're a baby elephant, or when you're an elephant in general, actually. And then when they go down to water, Billy, they absolutely love water. So in a day like today, you'll find that they'll go into the mud and they'll throw their mud on all over themselves, and they'll roll around in it, and they'll lie down, and they'll get up, and then they'll lie back down in it. And so it becomes a big game when there's a lot of mud around as well. So they are animals that love to play a lot. You can actually see that a lot of them are actually covered in mud at the moment, and that's because it's a warm day, Billy. So even the adults, I think, have gone for a little muddy wallow to try and keep nice and cool on a hot day. It's like if you are very hot, maybe you go and jump into the swimming pool and try and cool down. Although I don't know where you're from, Billy, but if you're in the United States, I'm sure that you are not very hot at all at the moment, particularly on the eastern side of the United States. I believe it is very, very cold, that side of the world at the moment. But look at that little face. Isn't that the sweetest thing? Is your tongue hanging out? It does look like its tongue's hanging out, doesn't it? You hot little one. Shame. I think its tongue's hanging out because it's a little hot. No. Oh well, it'll be all right. It'll be okay. The fact is that the adults are protecting it nicely and making sure that it is well sheltered. And if it needs water, they will guide it to the breast and to the mammary gland to allow it to suckle and to drink. Mother elephants are incredibly good with that. I've seen elephants give birth before and watched the whole process. And when they need that first bit of milk, they'll actually guide them using the trunk straight towards their teats and allow them to then suckle from there. So pretty incredible. Right, well, we're not going to go anywhere. There's no reason to. It's amazing to have the Ellies back, 1, and 2, to have a little baby in amongst them. So while we sit here and enjoy these big pachyderms, let's go across to James and his beautiful painted dogs.
Well, the painted dogs have managed to get up slightly now, and they're having a little bit of a greeting ceremony because they keep getting up to go off and have a drink. And then they come back to the shade here. Ronald, unfortunately, has got no signal in this area, and so he is unfortunately probably not going to be able to show you his pictures of the wild dogs. Still, he got a couple of good ones, and we'll try and broadcast those at some time. In the meantime, I think I'll bring it back. Now, Melissa, you've been watching Hyenas with Ralph, of course, and you say, who's got bigger ears? I think that was the question. Well, the answer is that the wild dogs have got much bigger ears. Let's move slightly so we can get a better view. They have got enormous ears, wild dogs, and it's because, well, we think because their communication during a hunt is so crucial. And what happens when they hunt is that they can really sort of bombshell or shotgun, if you like, out into the wilderness, and they can lose each other very quickly. And then they need to find each other very quickly. So they have these sort of satellite dish ears that help them to find each other. They listen to the sounds, they can swivel and pick up probably the smallest wild dog sound. There they are. And that helps them to maintain contact during a hunt. For a hyena, yes, their ears are certainly far, far better than ours. But they don't have the same need to communicate during a hunt. They'll hunt visually with each other, if they hunt together at all. I don't know, has Ron got a picture at the moment? I'll just quickly find out from Louise if we've got a Ronald picture. But I don't think we do. No, we don't. Anyway, beautiful shots here of them just trying desperately to stay cool in the sun. Like I say, a very, very hot day indeed. I don't think these chaps are going to get up until, well, at least 6:30 or so, and that on account of the fact that it is, well, it's pretty cold. No, it's not pretty cold. What did I say? No, on account of the fact that it is so very hot, and I think they ate very well today. earlier on. They look pretty full this morning. There was blood covering the heads of them. And so I think that although they may try and kill something this evening, it's unusual. It wouldn't be unusual. All right, we're going to go and have a quick look at Ronald's picture now. He's got a picture of one dog who's got his back to him. That's not the best picture Ronald's managed to get today, but I'm not going to move him. I'm just leave him. Hey Bird, you ask a very good question. You ask do wild dogs live? Now I've taken, the last time I checked, something like 80% of dogs in the Kruger National Park are less
Yes, well, everybody, it seems like when there's problems elsewhere, what do? We come back to the hyena den, and it is still buzzing with the youngsters, so that's not such a problem, is it? I wouldn't say so, because I'm really enjoying sitting here, and these youngsters are up to all sorts. And they've been greeting each other and marking and trying to get the adults to play with them, and then getting in trouble and then going back to lying down, but it never stops. That one's still with his little warthog tusk. He's got his little trophy, and he's working it nicely, working it on his teeth. It's probably quite good for him, as little cubs and puppies do. They need to chew on lots of things to help strengthen their teeth, and also sometimes they do teeth, so they drop their milk teeth and then they get their adult teeth. So it's quite interesting. And that one's slightly older. I wonder if it's got its permanent teeth come through already. The teeth did look quite sturdy, so I think so. A couple of the other really black cubs, they look like they've got those really fine, sharp teeth when we do get to see them. And the ones that are becoming a little bit lighter or a little bit older, but it doesn't matter. It doesn't put you in a different position in the hierarchy depending on your age. It all depends on the position of your mother, and very difficult to go up in the pecking order with hyenas. There can be very slight changes within the matriarchy and the pyramid. And look at that. That's a lovely view of his little track. And there, if you had to see baby hyena tracks in the bush, you would be very confused, because you don't often see that, and we always see adults moving around. But if we had to see a little one like that, I'm sure there would be lots of trackers that would be confused, having seen only one little baby hyena track. Right, folks, we are going to keep on sitting here. It is so exciting, and I'm sure the later it gets, the more that might happen. But in the meantime, we're going to send you on back to James with those painted dogs.
Well, we're still here with the wild dogs. We think we figured out why you keep having to crash cut away from us. It's Ronald's fault, apparently, so we'll avoid using him for a little while and try and sort that out. Now, Ladybird, we were talking about the ages of wild dogs and how long they live. I don't know how far into my answer I got, or you got, but basically something like 80% of the dogs in the Kruger are less than 80 or less than 5 years old. They have a potential lifespan probably around 10, and unfortunately out here, of course, there are lions and hyenas and all sorts of other predators that will try and kill them from time to time, and there are also difficulties with coming into contact with domestic dog diseases like canine distemper and rabies. Now, in the absence of all of that, yes, they probably do live for about 10 years, but in these very difficult conditions, despite their very high breeding rate, really, you'll probably find that they seldom live beyond 5 years out here. I'm just trying to find the exact reference for that. No, I can't at the moment. Anyway, we will try and find it at some stage. It is quite interesting, though, that they should live such short lives, despite the fact that they are such successful hunters. Hello, amazed man. You are a new viewer today, and I hope you remain as amazed as your name suggests you should. It is wonderful to have you with us, and thank you for giving us of your time and of your intellect. Of course, you've asked how fast they can run. Well, it's difficult to record how fast it runs. The figure I've just read is 6 kilometers an hour, which is about, call it 45 miles per hour. They can sustain a speed like that for some time. The big thing with wild dogs is their ability to maintain for a long period. And something like a cheetah, for example, which must catch within the first sort of quarter mile or so, or they run out of steam. They run much faster, of course. So those are the two coursing predators of Africa, the wild dogs and the cheetah. And these chaps have a very different sort of strategy for catching, and it relies a lot on their stamina. Alrighty, I think we're going to just move around a bit here, see if we can retrieve Ronald. While we do that, we're going to go back to Tristan and his rather fascinating small elephant sighting.
Well, it is fascinating, James. It is really interesting to watch. I think that this elephant was born during the day today. So we know that Steve was here this morning. There were no elephants here. And I have a funny feeling that it was born right here. And that's why it's still learning how to move around. I can just see it coming out of this wall of sort of elephants that are around us. There's some big bulls around, but a really large male has just arrived now as well. A massive individual that is slowly starting to come this way. And they're all sniffing around that area. So I want to go and have a little look there just now. I want to wait until that massive male, there he is. You see, look at the size of him. He's got massive, big, thick tusks. He's bigger than the other bull that we had here just now. So he's old and wrinkly and massive tusks. And look how he's sniffing in the air. He's got his trunk up, just smelling around. And he sat for a very long time, very close to where those other elephants are. And he was sniffing the ground. And I wonder if that wasn't where it gave birth. It maybe just could be that situation. Now, Julia, I think I'm getting this right. Megan, correct me if I'm wrong, but you were asking if a lot of elephants would be more protective of a young one than a fewer elephants. Is that the correct way? I think so. I'm not 100% sure. I broke up a little bit as you were coming through. But if that is the case, then the more elephants, at the end of the day, the better it's going to be. So there we go, Julia. Sorry, I got the wrong end of that altogether. But you're asking if a young male elephant would be as protective. Well, there's something wrong with that little calf. Did you see that? Sorry, Julia, I'll get into your question now. But it looks like its mouth... There's a split, you see that, between its trunk and its mouth. Almost like it's got a cleft palate. That's really interesting. I've never seen that in my life before. It's not its mouth. Its mouth is lowered down by the looks of things. And just now there was a funny sound coming from in amongst them. And I thought maybe its trunk sounded like it was blocked. And it seems as though there might be a little issue there. You see that? That doesn't look like its mouth... Its mouth looks like it's lower than that. Or is it its mouth? It just could be a funny angle. No, it is its mouth. Sorry, it's just the folds of skin. It looks okay. No, all is all right. We don't need to worry. It's just the way that the mouth is hanging open at this stage. Now, back to what you were asking, Julia. You were asking a young male elephant, would he be as protective? Yes, a young male elephant, if he's part of that family and if he was born to the same mother, he's going to be very, very protective of that little one. He's going to come to its defense. And some of these elephants that are around that little baby as well, look how fluffy its tummy is. It's got hair all over its tummy. It's super fluffy. But if it was in that group and another elephant came along, he will most certainly protect it and try and make sure that it is looked after and it is made to kind of feel safe and that there is a boundary between it and everybody else. So you'll find the situation that no matter if it's a young male or a female, if they are part of that family unit and it's the same mother, they will be highly protective of their sibling and make sure that their little one is safe. And you can see, look, as the little one takes a step, so the rest of them take a step. As the little one takes, and then the rest goes. So they all trying to kind of keep it as safe as possible, the whole grouping of them. And so even though some of those will probably not be this female's offspring, they are trying to kind of make sure that they protect it as much as possible. But there you go. See, it's trying to suckle every now and then. Shame, little one. You are brand new. I think you are only a few hours old, if that. Maybe even an hour or two. This is so cool to see. We have been so spoilt on Djuma the last few months. We've had so many amazing baby animal sightings. We've had Tundi's cub, Footloose the wildebeest, Scott's little baby wildebeest that was born. We've got this one. We've got all kinds of the little lapwing chicks, plover chicks that we had. We've had a lot of baby animals that we've been able to see take their first few steps in life. And so amazing to be a part of this. And I'm 99.9% sure now that that kite is here for the afterbirth, and that they gave birth right here. The fact that this herd is also sitting for as long as it is in this area would definitely mean that they are probably just waiting for this little one to start kind of being able to move and start trying to actually kind of be able to be on its feet and solid enough so that they can go and get out of the hot sun. But until then, it's everybody's going to be as stationary as possible. And you can see there's a bit of argy-bargy that's going on. You see that? Look here. You see? And look at how the female reacts. She gets involved very quickly. She says, Now look at all the others. They're coming as well. They're coming to investigate what's going on, who needs protection. They're all going to come in and try and just huddle around, make sure that everything's okay. That little one squashed into the middle. Now hopefully they don't think that I'm the cause of all of this, because we've done nothing wrong. We've just been sitting here. There was just one cheeky little male that tried to go and investigate. And look how that adult female that just came in, she's coming to investigate as well. So she's one of the older females within the herd, and she's just coming, sniffing this new little calf, making sure everything's okay, working out who this new member is. And it's amazing to me that vocalizing, you can see even though that female is not related to that tiny little calf, they've all come running in to try and protect it and to make sure. They heard a little distress from these elephants and they quickly made sure that they were all there to try and protect it. Is that not just the most incredible display of intelligence and caring amongst a herd of animals that you can possibly witness? Amazing. We are being super spoiled. This is not something that we're going to see very often, and certainly not something that we'll probably witness in the next few years, I would imagine. These things don't happen very often. Finding Ellies giving birth and sort of having brand new little calves where the herd is still having to stay stationary and wait for it to start moving is not an everyday occurrence. Very cool to see. Wow. Look at that. You can see how they're all tucked up together in there. And that poor little one is sandwiched in amongst all of that. Now, the really nice thing is that we're going to have a situation where with a female that is actually the mother is going to be quite easy to recognize because she's got these kind of skewed out tusks. So that's going to be cool. Now, our big male is starting to get a little bit funny with Tucson, so we're going to have to watch him. He is in must. If you look on his back legs there, you can see there's dribbling all along those back leg area. It's quite black in color, so he is in must, and he's kind of just getting a little bit sort of not grumpy, but he's showing off his size a little bit, so we're just going to need to watch him a little bit. Now, Amaze Man, you're wondering how long can an elephant's trunk get? Well, if you look at that big bull elephant, I would say at the trunk height where it's kind of touching up towards the tusks is probably maybe close to about 6 foot, just under 6 foot, and that's completely sort of from ground to the tusks, and that's not actually stretched out. You can see the rest of the trunk is coiled at the bottom there, so his trunk will probably easily be about 8 feet if it was really stretched, which is really long if you think about it. It is absolutely fascinating to see how they're able to manipulate that trunk. But big bull elephant like that, between I'd say about 7.5 feet probably maximum on a trunk like that. But absolutely incredible. incredible. Now, just the size difference of these animals is phenomenal. There's a massive female, the one behind him. So it looks like a young animal that's coming up behind that big bull. She, if you saw her by herself, you would think that that is a really large female, a big, massive matriarchal female, but she is dwarfed by that massive male. She looks just like a little one in comparison. In fact, both these males that we've got here are huge. They almost look like pillars on either side of her, protecting her at the moment. Look at that. You see these two tall kind of animals, they're facing in the same way, and almost looks as though they are this keeping everybody safe and making sure issues. How amazing is this? And also just to see the dynamics of having the big bulls here. Now, I'm sure the bulls have been attracted because of the birth. So they would have heard vocalizing, they would have heard a commotion, and they're interested. They know that there's something going on, and so they come in to check. There might also be a female in heat, but I think it's more a case of that these ellies were giving birth. And so these big males have come and they've smelt hormones and they've smelt that there's a female that's discharging, and so they're coming to try and investigate what's going on. Incredible to witness, though. And amazing how these ellies just form this barrier between them. Is he going to lie down? He looks like he might be lying down. He's stretching his legs out. Are you going to sit down, boy? No. I think he's just giving his back legs a nice big stretch. He's an old boy. You can see on his hips, they're sinking in a little bit there. So that's a sign of age. I would say he's probably easily in his late 40s, maybe even starting to approach 50. And remember that the elephants in this area, most of them won't live past 55 because of the type of terrain we're in and the diet that they have, very abrasive towards their teeth, and so their lifespan is slightly shorter than those elephants that you'll find in the Maasai Mara and even in other parts of Africa. So I would say he's a very old boy, that, and still massive though. He's intimidating, I can tell you that. When he comes towards you, he's very intimidating. Right, now we're going to, like I say, just carry on sitting here. Why not? There's so much happening. There's so much amazing interaction to watch. And so while we enjoy these ellies, let's go across to my friend Brent, who for the first time ever sounds like he is struggling to find a tawny-coloured cat in the Mara.
Yes, yes, Tristan. I think you're more intimidating than that big elephant bull, however. We've actually covered quite a lot of ground since you last saw us. We're now on the edge of the Mara River. I'm hoping for a bit of luck with the Paradise Pride, all the Musketeer Male Lion Coalition. However, none are being kind at the moment, so we're not seeing anything. Not much to eat around here as well. Oh, are they going to land? Hopefully we can catch up with them. So there's quite a lot of nice bird life though, even in this really windy conditions. So, Adrian, if you have a look next to us, there's a oh no, they flew away. Darn it, it's little red birds. Okay. They've all landed in that tree, in the same tree as the blackbird there. So if we go that one there, you follow my finger? Oh no, the blackbird's gone, but the little red ones are still there. Oh, guinea fowls on the other side. So zoom in right on my finger, a little bit to the left. There we go. Isn't that pretty? Oh no, off they go now. The wind is not good for birding. There were African fly finches, and there was a yellow-mantled widow as well. We tried. Let's go try and find something that doesn't move around so much in the wind. I have seen two very good birds in our wanderings today. Eurasian marsh harrier and a corncrake. Now, one will remember how excited I got about a corncrake was on Cheetah Plains. But in the Mara, corncrakes are not nearly as rare, and actually you do flush them reasonably often when you're driving through wet, grassy areas. Oh, we do have one of my favorites, though. Ooh, again, disappearing in the wind. Where'd the bee-eater go? You see the river's quite low at the moment. Some of the sandbanks are coming out, lots of hippos. I think there's going to be quite a bit of competition between the different hippos as we head into this dry spell. So we could be seeing quite a few more hippo fights and the like. Oh, he looks like a grumpy sod, that guy does. Now, I asked you a little bit earlier about if we deemed survival as success. What was the most successful species in the history of the earth? We got some really good guesses in. Cockroaches, sea sponges, bacteria, all sorts of guesses. Tortoises, mosquitoes, frogs, sharks. But it looks like, for the first time in a very long time, I gotcha. I gotcha all. It is a bit of a trick question. So if we actually have to think about it in terms of survival, and the living organism that has been exactly the same for the longest period of time, and is survived through the age of the dinosaurs, the dawn of the mammals, the great sea age, the volcanic age, is blue-green algae, Spirogyra pond scum. There we go, 4.2 billion years unchanged. That's the oldest fossil that has been found of Spirogyra, is 4.2 billion years old. Isn't that incredible? Absolutely fascinating. Well, I think it's fascinating. Hippos, they don't seem too impressed with Spirogyra. Hey. They're starting to get ready to head out. You can see they're getting a bit more mobile, heading out to go graze on the green grass. They, however, even though they share their aquatic habitat with Spirogyra, don't eat it. The only strange thing that eats seaweed is, Spirogyra is people. Algae tablets, how vile. I think it's got some form of vitamin or whatnot. But yes, let's not talk about Spirogyra any longer. Let's go across to Ralph with some very, very cute hyena cubs.
Yes, indeed. Thanks, Brent. Well, folks, I still haven't been able to drag myself away from this hyena den, because there's been all sorts going on once more. There was some kind of smell that just came through to this hyena den, because we didn't hear anything. It must have been something in the breeze that really made them all jump up and take notice, and all the youngsters disappeared down the hole, and the adults were looking very concerned. But now it seems to have settled a little bit, but there is still a little bit of an edginess to them. They do seem to be a little bit worried about something. I wonder what it could have been. Whether it was the smell of a lion or what, I don't know. But there was something that really worried them a minute ago, and I can promise you it wasn't us, because we didn't do anything different to what we've been doing all the time. So it was really strange. But they seem to have settled now, and the one walking off with his trophy there is still the same one with it. He's not relinquishing that. Getting a lovely chew on it. It's absolutely wonderful. So, folks, I think we are going to leave shortly, however, because I do want to pop in at the river and see what's happening down there. So let's say goodbye to these hyena for now, but we will be back with them in the next few days. Tomorrow we're going to be popping across the river, so we're going to give these hyena a bit of space. But in the meantime, let's head you on over to Tristan, all the way back in South Africa.
Grouping with all the little with the little calf in it, and so there's a bit of chaos that is now starting to happen. There's a bit of pushing and shoving, and everybody's getting a little upset with each other at the moment. I think it's such close proximity that when the bulls arrive, then the females get a little bit antsy and they try and kind of push them away. It's really interesting. If you watch this bull on the right hand side, he's starting to come in now, and just now as he was coming in, that's when the female started to push him and try and get rid of him. Now the little one is actually quite far from that male, so he's probably going to be alright at the moment. He's not going to have a situation where the female will push him just yet, but if he starts coming from behind where that female is, she certainly will turn around and try and push him away. But amazing just to watch the interactions that are taking place and the way that these males kind of engage with the females and how it all kind of works together. And these females are highly tolerant of each other, but as soon as a male comes near, even the subadult males, they're getting a rough welcome, and it's not a very warm reception at all. You see, look at a female, she can just come straight in, no worries, no issues, but the boys, when they start coming, now look what this female is, she might start turning because the other male is coming from the back now, so he's coming towards now. Let's see what happens. You see, he's just coming to, I think he just wants to investigate more than anything, but the adult female, if she feels like he's too close, might turn around and start to push him. But you see how they're all sniffing each other. You see sniffing at the genitals of the female and just trying to work out what's going on. Why is everybody so kind of interested in this tiny little being, and just trying to work out the exact sort of reasoning for what's happening. Now here comes the big matriarch as well. She's what I think is the matriarch, certainly the largest and the oldest of the elephants that we have here. And look at how that male backs away immediately as that big female comes in. Look, now we've got a standoff between the two of them. You see this? This is incredible. Wow. And then back he goes. Now the big bull is coming now, still dribbling. And he's an absolute monster. Now this will give you a really good idea of just how large this male is in comparison to everybody else. And if you see him kind of walking towards those females, see that older female has chased that male away. It's enough, you're too close. And I wonder what this big male is going to get a reception from this older female as well. You see the herd is trying to just kind of push the little calf away, take it away from these big boys. At the end of the day, they don't want to really be too close, because if one of those big boys pushes too hard, it can obviously hurt a number of them. So everybody's just being a bit wary. Fascinating to watch though. Unbelievable. I would love to see that tiny baby with that male, just to see how much bigger he is. I mean, look at that. It's actually quite scary how he's dwarfing the rest of them. There we go. Look. He is monstrous. That little baby's head is the size of his front foot. Just the round part of his front foot. You can see the little baby right in underneath his legs there. So there it is. And so baby, then mother, and then dad, or a male that could be the dad. In terms of the belly heights, you can see how the belly heights differ. That is just so cool. This is as epic as you could possibly ask for. And he's such a gentleman, considering he's in must and there's a lot of commotion. You can actually see he almost looks like he's sleeping. You see his eyes are closing? Shame, boy, are you tired and hot and wondering why everybody's not paying attention to you? And he's probably seen this all before many times. A male of this size would certainly have been through these kind of things before and has probably seen it all, and that's why he's not really that interested compared to the younger males that maybe this first they're really witnessing at different herds. It's not with a young calf in it. See, he's got his trunk up, sniffing. Now, that's the direction that we think Hosanna was left in, so somewhere there. So he's just sniffing the breeze from where Hosanna was lying earlier. So, Lynn, you're wondering if a nursing mother dies, would another member of the herd come in and suckle that baby and take over? So, Lynn, no. Unfortunately not. Elephants are very particular about their babies suckling from them. They try and make sure that the nutrients that they're getting or giving is to their baby, and to give their baby the right sort of upstart and to give them the right nutrients that they need. Remember that female, even though she's now, well, there's this youngster that is around, that female needs to breed to be lactating, and if she's lactating, she needs to make sure that her calf is surviving before she tries to look after any other. She might be able to possibly produce enough milk for two, but it would be a very big risk that she would take, and she could theoretically, endanger her own offspring, and so she'd rather look after her own offspring first and foremost before she does anything else. And so no, they don't adopt others. It's never been recorded as far as I know, and so unfortunately if the mother were to die, then normally the calf also dies as well, or gets left behind, and unfortunately gets then upon or various other things that aren't. Now, these ellies have moved off a little bit. I want to go and check where that kite is sitting, because the kite is still patient there. So I just want to go back and have a look, see if we can find some semblance of this afterbirth. It might be really cool to go and have a look. Hildy, we're right at the back there. Here we are. A little tree that we got to go over. That's okay. That's nothing major. Oh, I forgot how hot it is in the sun. We've been sitting in the shade ever so nicely, VM and I, and kind of forgot that there is this blazing sunshine that's... Have you got afterbirth right there, Baldy? There's something that resembles afterbirth. Let's go over there quickly and we'll come back to that just now. Is it a lot, Baldy? It is quite a lot. Okay, well, we'll get to that now. Let's have a look here, because they were all sniffing here and this kite is still sitting right there. So I think maybe this little calf was born somewhere in this general little section. Let's have a look. Maybe even there, Baldy, you're right. It looks very dark already from here. I just want to see. There's elephant dung. Oh, there it is. Look there. Well, definitely, she gave birth right there. So you can see there's the afterbirth right in the sun. It's still fairly wet, so we must have missed this birth by, I don't even know, maybe an hour or two, if that. I think that's about as close as we must have been to seeing an elephant give birth, and that's why the kite is here. So that's why the kite is being patient. It's waiting for the ellies to go, and this is the best view we'll ever get of a yellow-billed kite. Look how close that is. Isn't that cool? So for those of you that have probably, some of you may have never seen a yellow-billed kite, but it is really, really, really cool to see. And you can actually see on the beak, it looks as though there's some stuff on it, so maybe it's already been feeding and the ellies have chased it a little bit. But definitely, this is where it gave birth, and it must have been, like I say, at some point early this afternoon, or maybe even around lunchtime, because it's still very red and still quite moist, and in this heat, that would dry out incredibly quickly, that afterbirth, and you'd have a situation where it would be a little bit more kind of brown and drier than what you see there. Amazing though. So there we go. She obviously gave birth right here in this section, which is absolutely phenomenal, and it's why that little one is as wobbly as it is. How cool is that? So we were minutes away from, well, hours away, should I say, from a elephant birth. That would have been quite something. I certainly would have enjoyed documenting that, that's for sure, because the elephant birth I've seen, I didn't actually have any photos or any sort of video of it, so it would be really nice to actually have it on video. So I'm just going to turn here and just go to where VM said, because it looks like another big dark patch there, but given that this kite is hanging right there, I'm pretty sure that's where it was initially kind of happened, and then maybe some more over here. Maybe this is where it started, and then she eventually went in there where it was a bit shadier. But you can see what VM was talking about here in front. There's a big dark patch on the soil, and you can see actually where this sand has been kicked and moved. So maybe that's where it started, and then she moved it along, and it ended up over there. But that is so cool to see. Very, very cool. Guide Monkey, you're wondering where's the cleanup crew and who is the cleanup crew? So Guide Monkey, the cleanup crew would probably be the form of this yellow-billed kite, tawny eagles, battalier eagles, vultures, hyenas, even those wild dogs that James is with. We're not far from there. Maybe the dogs come around this side and come and have a look. Hosanna, if he's around and they move off, he might come and have a little look at it. It's at the end of the day, a free meal that he might be able to clean up. I'm not sure if he'd eat it, but you never know. Leopards sometimes, and Mvula most certainly would eat that if he came across it, given the state he's in. So a number of different things would clean up, and a number of different things will be here, but that kite is going to get first sort of go at it for now. As soon as other birds spot that kite though, like battaliers, they're going to come in and they're going to try and keep, you know, that kite away. And the bigger the animal that is around will just dominate what's going on. And if a hyena comes, that will be gone in all of about 1 second. It will just sort of gulp most of that down very, very quickly. Right, what I think I'm going to do is I'm just going to have a look around quickly just to see if Hosanna is here. Those ellies are starting to move off a little bit into the bush. They're going into quite a thicket at the moment, and so the little calf is kind of with them. We can still see them very nicely, but they're starting to move into a thicket a little bit, and I really don't want to follow them through thickets. So I'm going to just do a little loop for Hosanna, see if we can find him. If we can't find him, maybe the ellies are out when we get back, and we'll be able to then have another amazing visual of that little calf. But what a special sighting. Now, while we kind of look for Hosanna, I think let's go back across to Brent Leo Smith. Hopefully he's going to have some luck at some point this afternoon. Otherwise, he's going to be a very grumpy fella.
Here we go. I'm always happy I've seen birds. You know, a black-headed heron stalking through the grassland after a manner of insects, grasshoppers mostly. They are such elegant birds. Now, we've been driving through the long grasses, and we've done a loop around the river with no luck. But fortunately here, on the Topi Plains, we have some shorter grass, and with the shorter grass means there's some animals. We've got Topi living on the Topi Plains, strangely enough. We've got a nice big herd of impala. The odd little Tommy around, there's a Topi. Funny looking beasties, aren't they? But we are hoping that we get a bit of luck around here. So there's food for predators here. So we can only hope that there are some predators about. Now, if you listen very carefully, I'm going to keep quiet. Just go to the left a little bit there, Adrian. You see there's that topi lifting his nose. To the left from the impala. Keep coming. Keep coming, keep coming. Past the impala. Bit more. And there we go. Now, that's a nice big male topi, and they are going to be coming into the rut quite soon. And if you listen carefully, you'll hear these funny little grunts every now and then. And there's a little Tommy sleeping behind him. Some Egyptian geese in the foreground. It's very funny little... So it's not quite topi rut yet, but it will be coming, and then there can be some particularly fierce battles between the topi. You can hear some scaly spurfowls in the distance as well. I don't know. Always sound like people chatting away to me. Unfortunately, I think the wind might be affecting what you can hear. Now, we had a question from... Oh, no, I've gone blank now. Megs, can you help me out quickly? We had a question from Handicap, which I can't remember the question either, Megs. I'm so sorry. Got distracted by all the animals around me. Ah, yes. How far away is the closest city to the Maasai Mara? Well, we've got lots of villages close by, but the closest city is Narok. And on European and American standards, it's not a city at all. It'd be a small town. But in Kenyan standards, it's a city. It is also the seat of the county government. We are in Narok County. The Maasai Mara is within Narok County. It is, as the crow flies, if you can go straight in an aeroplane over the mountains, probably only about 60 or 70 kilometers away. To drive, probably around 150. However, if I say 150 kilometers, you think, oh, it's just down the road, you know? There's a little toddle down the road in a car. However, that portion can take you 4 hours, 5 hours, due to the nature of the roads. The roads down to the Mara leave quite a lot to be desired, especially after it's rained a lot, which it had just before we came down. And so, yes, it can be very, very sticky, that road. As some of you know, not this leave, the leave before, when we were coming back from Uganda, Batman, Rebecca, myself, Faith and Jamie got stuck when our car slid off the road. We were not driving, so there's no marshmallows for me. I was not the driver, I was a passenger, I had no control. And we left Nairobi at about 12, and we only got into camp at 1 a.m. and we were stuck for about 5.5 hours in the mud. We had to find a motorbike came past, and he had a friend who knew a friend who had a friend who had a tractor. So it took quite a lot of organizing, but eventually a tractor pulled us all out at about 11ish, and then we had a flat tire, so we only got into camp at about 1:20 in the morning. So it was quite an adventure, a long drive. Getting stuck's fun every now and then, but it's fun to get stuck every now and then, but not too often. I prefer to just not get stuck. I leave the getting stuck to Rolf, who's just to the west of me.
Thanks, Brent. Yeah, no, I'm not that good at getting stuck, but I am good at trying. And I just want to just pull off the road here because we want to just have a look at this group of birds that we do have building their nests. We have stopped here before, but it's always lovely to see a lot of masked weavers, and in the morning they've been very busy at working on those nests, and they've chosen an excellent site in this acacia, or now as they call it Vachellia, and it looks like a sweet thorn Vachellia, or acacia as we used to call it, but a very good site. And now, Pavan, I hear you've asked the question, is it easy for humans or people to contract sleeping sickness from the tsetse flies? And, well, Pavan, it is now quite known, and I know the figures in the southern African region. I need to find out a little bit up here in Kenya. But in the southern African region, they used to have it very prevalent, but they got it under control with a lot of the dips and spraying that they did, and so the tsetse flies have been really reduced to very much no problem at all. But up here in Kenya, I have heard people saying that they've been bitten by tsetse flies. I haven't heard of anybody getting sleeping sickness, but I do need to find out if there is any prevalence of it here in Kenya. Now, I don't know if you can hear these birds calling, but for me, that is very much the sound of summer. Now, let's just listen a little bit. When I was growing up, as a little youngster, we used to spend a lot of time fishing on the river, and we used to really welcome the sound of weavers, because that meant that the fish were going to start coming on the bite. And so this sound for me really brings joy to my heart and always makes me think of summer. Wonderful how they do that dance at the bottom of it. See how they hang upside down? That's a little bit of, look at me, look how pretty I am, and yellow and bright, and look at how well I've built my little home. And so he's trying to attract a female, and if he, there we go, look at me, yes, I'm very yellow, and my house is very well built. And that's the message he's portraying. He's quite grey on top, so he exposes all his colours from underneath when he hangs upside down. And that's mostly what the colours are for with birds. They can very often lose all their colours in the non-breeding months, and so it's generally down to the molt and in attracting females and a mate to show that he's the strongest, the wisest and the best house builder of the lot, and he can also do his dance the best. And there's a whole intricacy going on here, natural selection, and he's obviously hard at work on the inside too. Now, chat noir, we're getting it right now, black cat. You're saying that they sound like chickadees, I think it was. I'm not quite sure what that is, but I'm assuming it's a bird. Chickadees. Oh, chickadees. I wonder, is that small little chickens or chickadees? I'm not quite sure what chickadees are. Is that a French word? C'est en français? Oui ou pas? No? But look at all of them. Wow, they're putting on a real show. Ah, okay. So FC has just informed me that it's a little bird that they find in North America, part of the tit family. Well, that's news to me. Just listen to them. Fabulous. It seems as soon as one starts calling, then they all try to compete. Now, Linda, you're saying that the noise is putting you to sleep. Well, I'm glad that it is, Linda. Well, not that we want you to fall asleep while you're watching our show, but if it's soothing, well, then that's great. But as I say, it can bring out emotions in all sorts of different people, and different emotions at that. And like I said, so for you, it's making you feel sleepy. For me, it makes me feel excited for summer and wanting to go down the river and catch some fish. Now, Lulu, you're wondering if both male and female roost in the nest at night. They can do, but generally the males, they can stay. You see, that's why this is a lovely tree for them, because they can stay outside. It depends on the weather, really. If it's very cold, they will huddle up on the inside in their little ball inside that nest, and so when they huddle together, they then save energy, and weavers do this quite regularly, because when you shiver to stay warm, this is obviously a response, and it does assist the body in staying warm, and mammals will then shiver when it's very cold, and that assists in survival. But what the weavers do, they huddle together, and in so doing keep their warmth together, and then they don't need to shiver to stay warm, because they need to save their energy for the work that one is doing right there. And so if they spent the night shivering, they wouldn't have any energy in the morning to constantly work on their house and do the little dances that they're doing. And the ones that do this the best are the sociable weavers in Namibia, which are the largest nest builders in the world. But they build a massive communal nest with all different entrances at the bottom. So all the different couples will still have their little nests, but as part of the greater nest. And so when it's very cold, they all huddle together and they don't need to shiver to stay warm. And when it's very hot, it's very cool inside. So it all does interlink with thermoregulation as well. And you really don't want to waste your energy shivering to keep warm all night, especially when you've got hard work to do the next day, such as building these very elaborate nests. And a true weaver is defined by a bird that can tie a knot. And so not all weavers are true weavers, like the red-billed buffalo weaver is not a true weaver. His nest is just an array of sticks all over the place. And the white-browed sparrow weaver, similar thing. His is just an array of grass pieces all over the place. But the true weavers are the ones that can tie a knot, and they normally make a ball nest with some kind of little tunnel coming into it. And that's how you also tell from looking just at the nest which kind of weaver it is. These masked weavers, they don't have a real entrance or a tunnel into the nest. They've just got a very elaborate hole. But the other weavers, they make a very long tube, which is all down to assisting in stopping predators and getting inside and eating their chicks or their eggs. And so it does help to protect them. And even when the wind really blows hard, they're still fine inside that nest. So it's all protected, and it's very, very intricate from the weavers. Now, SC in New York, you're wondering how many chicks they can have in their nest at one time. It's generally up to about 4, but what I've seen the most, it's normally between 2 and 3. So the average, I would say 2 or 3, and they don't always all survive. Sometimes the wind can throw that little nest all over the place and they can fall out, and they very often make their nests over water, which does also assist in protecting against predators. But when the wind really blows and one of them falls out, they go plop into the water. And so we knew this as little kids, and we knew that there would be fish waiting underneath them, ready to catch these little chicks. And so we used to go fishing underneath these nests, and we used to catch massive catfish immediately below there, because those fish were waiting just for the little chicks to plop into the water. And we only fish for sport, so even though we caught those big catfish that were waiting for the weavers to fall out their nests, we had our fun with the fish, and then we let them go and eat the little chicks falling out the nest and return them to their murderous roles. But there we go, calling once again. Fabulous. Look at the little dance once more. Really makes you feel part of their little gang. You're listening to their call. Lovely how their dance goes with the call as well. Alrighty folks, I think we've sat here with these weavers for long enough. It was a lovely little encounter, that, and we can never pass up even just the small little things that we can see. It just makes for a more complete bush experience, doesn't it? But we've got other things to find and see, so let's start up and let's head on out, see what else we can find. Bye-bye, weavers. Good luck in attracting the females. I'm sure they're all sitting in the background, moaning about your building. Good luck. Alright folks, so we're going to go along this road here. We're heading sort of towards the river a little bit, and then along the river road. And then from there we'll stop with whatever nice wild animal or organism or whatever else we can find. But while we're doing that, let's send you on back to South Africa with James, who I believe is driving around one of my favorite areas in Chitwa Dam.
Well, I'd suggest what he does, of course, is go home, because if he's caught after 6:30, he may be arrested and found in jail tomorrow. Now, we have a hippopotamus over there that is doing a little bit of sort of hippopotamine acrobatics, if you like. He's done a bit of standing up in the mud, yawning for us. And now, naturally, as we've come live, he has disappeared. Oh, very exciting. I believe Ralph has an Ascari and is going to be out for a while this evening. That's quite exciting. Okay, good. There we have a very peaceful scene. Now, I was actually quite jealous as I was sitting there listening to Ralph's sighting, or bits and pieces of it. I love weavers as well, and they make me feel like summer also. So I've got an exact feeling from the sighting you had there of those weavers. We've left the wild dogs. We're going to go back to them as it cools down a bit, but for now we're going to enjoy the hippopotamus and some Egyptian gooses. They are swimming gently towards him. A Sunday afternoon swim they are having. Looks like a very leisurely, stately swim across the water. And despite what you might think, they are not looking for fish. They are looking for algae and greenery. But I will tell you that they do eat fish, because I've seen them eating fish in this very waterhole. Very peaceful. Nice little breeze coming up, giving us a bit of coof. And I will tell you, unfortunately, that Ronald is out of action for the rest of the day. He is apparently the reason you kept having to leave us at the wild dogs. He created a bit of a blockage with the signal. Oh, and a lovely woodland kingfisher coming down to have a drink. It's disappeared now. Don't worry about it, Sebastian. I'm sorry, I threw you clean under the bus there. He did sort of go across over there. Can you see him there? Anyway, let's go back to the hippo. Now, SC from New York, you're wondering about hippopotami. and their primary diet? Well, you see, they are largely eaters of grass. They will eat aquatic vegetation from time to time, but they mostly feed on grass at night. So they spend their days in the water doing not very much at all, except sort of fouling the water with their dung, which this fellow did as we arrived. And then they move out as the sun goes down and they graze, which is why around waterholes, especially in sort of grassland rather than woodland areas, you will find lawns all around waterholes and on riverbanks, and that's from the hippos. They've grazed them into these wonderful sort of golf course-like lawns. And you'll find patches of that here. You find it mostly on the banks of the Mara River, of course. Lots and lots of hippos there. In fact, a hippo is not even an anomaly there in the Mara. Thousands of them in the river. And here it's always nice to have one because they occur singly quite often unless we are near a river. And we don't really have a river like that here at Djuma. So we have these waterholes where young bulls like this fellow come to eke out their days until they are big and strong enough to take a pod or get into a pod, or where old fellows come to retire and spend their dotage in peace in amongst the Egyptian geese, blacksmith lapwings, three-banded plovers and various other things. Seb, can you see in that bank there, there's a white thing shining? Can you see that? Any idea what you think that is? It looks like an eggy, but I'm really not sure what would have put an eggy in there. Very strange. I might have to go investigate that and find out what it is. Anyway, that's what's going on here. Now, I have prevailed upon the greatest French Gabonese Air Force pilot to put his drone in the air. And so that is what we are going to do while we investigate that eggy. So while we do that, I think we'll hand you over to Brent Leo Smith, who I believe is, and I quote, bumbling about the plains of the Mara.
Hey Leo, welcome back. Well, it seems like the big cats are avoiding us. I think Adrian and I tomorrow are going to have to head deep south towards Tanzania. See if we can get any luck with some cheetah down there. Now, we've got a question from Handicap. Is that, has climate change affected the Mara? Now, climate change is always a bit of a controversial topic. I like a good controversial topic as much as the next one. So, the Earth has had climate changes far more drastic over its whole history. There's no doubt that human beings are having effect on the climate and on the Earth itself as an immediate effect. But in terms of actually seeing climate change effects, $50 or $60 years, even 100 years, because in an area like this, that those changes are not going to be as apparent as they would be somewhere as stark as the polar ice caps, for example, where it's very easy to see or notice a change. Where here you might have a gradual drying out or a gradual wettening, but you would need to take a lot longer time to really see and look at some very nitty-gritty data and go on mean averages of mils per year. So it's very difficult to say that or see that there has been any at all change in the Mara. Some people are saying it's a bit drier than it used to be, but I've learnt after being in the bush for a long time, it was always hotter last year, or it's always the hottest year this year, or the driest year this year. And there's a lot of pub talk, so to speak. And until you can actually get hold of some proper data and facts, it's very impossible. It is impossible to tell, and I don't like guessing. So I would say there's been a very minimal effect, but as I say, until you can actually, rather than listening to pub talk, and you must remember a lot of stuff posted on social media is an absolute load of nonsense. There's very good things about how connected the world is at the moment. There's also very bad things. And there's a lot of very bad articles that haven't been researched very well that are just popped out there now taken as gospel. So I'm just trying to see, there we go, I'm just causing a traffic jam. So you've got to be very careful when you broach subjects and stuff like that. So it is, and it is a very controversial one. There is no doubt that human beings are having an effect on the earth. Whether the earth is warming in a natural cycle or not, that will take a lot more sort of very in-depth research to find out. I mean, if you think about it, the earth was so much warmer a couple of 100,000 years ago that the sea was up to 50 meters, over 100 feet higher. New York, Manhattan would be underwater where the old sea levels were. I mean, and the same would go for Cape Town and Durban. And people tend to focus in on the one tiny little factoid about something somewhere, where you've got to look at it from the whole earth. You can't just take one little area. So yes, we are having an effect. Is the earth warming itself? Possibly, as well as, and that combined with us is quite bad, but it is, as I say, it's not a yes or no answer. It's something that needs a lot of thought and discussion. But while I ponder the warming of the earth and whether us talking so much on Drive has got anything to do with it, let's go back across to Ralph with some beautiful birds.
Thanks, Brent. And yes, beautiful they are. Now, these are the grey-crowned cranes, but so we were watching the little weavers earlier, and they were doing a little dance trying to attract a mate. But now what these two are doing, they've obviously already established their bond, but they are constantly maintaining it. And it's very much like a couple holding hands, walking into the sunset and chatting about life and things in general. But these two are now doing a little dance. You see how they take every step a little bit the same, and then you'll watch and they put their heads up and they do a little bit of a bob. So this is really keeping and establishing the bond between them. Very important as a couple that are going to be bringing up some chicks and looking after them. They need to know each other inside out, and these dances and courtship ways that they move together, it's all re-establishing those bonds. So now I think it was coming from punk rock and something. Your question was about if we get punk rock and music. There we go. Thank you, FC. Punk rock and music. You were wondering if we get cuckoos that come through here in Kenya. Absolutely. We've got the emerald spotted cuckoo, which is a very special one for me. I've never seen it. We've got the black cuckoo, which says, "I'm so sad." He does a... And that's the way that I remember it. I'm so sad. We've got the classes cuckoo as well. He does a maiki, maiki, maiki. That's his call. We've also got the Diederik's cuckoo. We've got the Jacobin's cuckoo as well. And so there is a number, I think the Levaillants as well. In French, le vaillant. So there are a number of cuckoos that do come through Kenya to answer your question. But folks, I just want to show you this lovely scenery that we are sitting watching here. We've got Topi in the front, and we've got waterbuck, and there is a lot of waterbuck, in fact, a lot of Defasa waterbuck moving through there grazing, and there are some elephants in the background. And then as we pan and move across, there is a few more elephant, and there's some impala, and in the background there is a wonderful, well, we're trying to actually watch it. But the sunset is a little bit nondescript today. It is, however, making for lovely colors. And so that's a lovely sight there. And we've got some crickets calling next to us. It's making for a wonderful setting here. And what I can hear in front of us as well, I think, is some European bee-eaters. It's a bit difficult because they're far off. I can't even see them, but they're going grr, 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 grr. It's another sign of summer for me. One of the things like the impala giving birth, the woodland kingfisher arriving, and the European bee-eaters, as well as the masked weaver calls. All signs of summer for me. But here in Kenya, it seems that we do get a little bit of all-round or all-year these kind of dropping of the young and the birds calling, because it's a lot more tropical up here. Sorry, this elephant's just getting a little bit irritated with something. That's why I keep looking over there. He's just trumpeted and stuck his ears out. I don't know what he's bothered with. Sometimes they can just get a little bit irritated with the antelope that are around them and just throwing their weight around. Sometimes a little bit bossy. Maybe they're thinking, you bunch of minions, just move off. I'm taking this water for myself. Maybe he just wants to be alone. Oh, it's a young topi. I thought that might have been a lion moving through the grass there. But I'm sure there would have been some animals running off if that was true. And there, the lovely set of horns on that impala. Still amazes me the size of the horns on the impala here in the Maasai Mara. They are much bigger than that of the ones down in the Lowveld or in South Africa. I've never seen an impala with horns that size until I came here in Kenya. So that's something new to me. It's a lovely setting. Here's some of the frogs starting to kick off their calls as well. Very tranquil, and you can see that topi's got a little bit of mud on his horns. He's obviously been trying to show off. There, the European bee-eaters calling again. Wonderful scene. You can also hear a Burchell's cuckoo. It might be a Burchell's, or definitely a cuckoo. Might be a white-browed or even a Senegal cuckoo doing his very indicative of rain. I'm not quite sure if we're going to get rain anytime soon. Maybe he's just calling for the sake of it. There, the Olololo escarpment in the background. And it seems the birds are all still calling a little bit. I wonder when the night birds are going to start to call. I'm sure we'll hear some of the nightjars and the owls as we on our way back towards the escarpment. But folks, it's been a wonderful day, and it's nearly time for us to say goodbye. Because we're going to start making our way back towards camp. And so thank you for joining us today. It has really been a wonderful morning and afternoon game drive. Please join us once again tomorrow for the Kenyan part of the game drive. But in the meantime, good night, folks.